Mark Bowden has been voted the #1 body language professional in the world. Born in England and building off an early career as an actor on screen and on stage, Mark pioneered nonverbal analysis of human behaviors intended to persuade. His techniques are trusted by business leaders, Fortune 500 companies, politicians, and G7 prime ministers, as well as the millions of people who have watched his TEDx talk, his YouTube channel, his media commentary, and his appearances with Dr. Phil, or read his best-selling books including Winning Body Language, Tame the Primitive Brain, or Truth and Lies, What People Are Really Thinking. On today's podcast, we're talking about body language in the election, and in particular with regards to winning over so-called swing voters. How can Kamala Harris set herself up for success, and what misperceptions specifically is she trying to outrun? Similarly for Trump, what's the best strategy for winning over swing voters who might be won over as long as they're not subconsciously turned off? What is the impact of voice register on voters when coming from a woman versus a man? How powerful can a candidate's hand gestures really be? What was Mark's impression of Trump's body language following the assassination attempt? And how many repetitions of a carefully constructed new gesture does it take to change a voter's perception? Listen to the end for insight into how Mark manages to win over thousands of people at once during keynotes, because their results in his business depend on it. Any predictions for this upcoming elegant election we are about to endure in the United States?
Well, so what have we learned so far? We've learned the classic of a day in politics is a hell of a long time, and anything can happen. Anything can happen, and so if you've got a plan, if you've got a strategy, prepare to be punched in the face, and realize that your strategy was useless.
Absolutely. And body language is going to be under a microscope in this election. I'm sure you'll be talking about it on the various outlets. There's one component of how the candidates present to audiences. There is an entirely different component, which is about how they feel about and how they interact with each other. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in debates. First question, from Kamala's body language, what misperception or objection do you believe Kamala Harris fears most from the voters?
Okay, so the way that she will not want to get branded, positioned, is as a Californian progressive.
And the body language of a Californian progressive would be talking like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think indirect, casual, indirect. Imagine that Californian heat and how laissez-faire you could be because California, like the fruit grows all the time, but ultimately, the fruit's falling off the trees in California. So she will be wanting to project herself as more conservative, and so I've already started seeing her use it. This idea of stuff making sense.
What did you notice? Is it a voice?
Just
is it a posture?
No, just this is more in the wording of the wording making sense. More symmetry in the gestures, clarity in the gestures. She's still got some asymmetrical ones where she does go up higher into her head area, which is more visionary, more exciting up there, more a world of ideas. And we know that Biden was very much in this world of the idea of this. So to project,
and that won't help her.
It's a bit, let's just say, airy. So she's going to have to bring it down into common sense, clear, let's just say, clear logical common sense as to what should be done.
Is that why Donald Trump is always speaking with his hands in front of him, as if to try to encapsulate the point?
Yes. Well, what he will do, he does this kind of squeeze box gesture, or cymbals clashing. Right. Gesture, which is to bring this idea together, to hold the idea, to hold it in his space. Yeah. So the more look, they're both trying to grab each other's swing voters. We know the presidency only really, as far as I understand it, there's 3 states that really make the president currently, if it's anything like the last time. And so you go, okay, there's 3 states that matter. Who are the swing voters in that state? Because at the moment, it looks to me, from what I can see from polls, that I would go, okay, I think they're unbiased, or as unbiased as they can be. You've got Harris as we speak today at about 1% behind Trump in the popular vote. Okay, but the popular vote doesn't matter. It matters what happens in 3 states. So now we've got to know who are the swing voters in those swing votes, and how do you go get those? How do you move them across to your side?
And in the context of trying to win over the swing voters, can we do a lightning round of certain gestures and what you think they're trying to convey? Or even just what they're conveying unknowingly? When Trump brings the idea together as if he's smushing the symbols together in front of him, what's he trying to convey?
He's trying to convey, or he could convey, the bringing together of things, the holding of the thing, the control of it. Yeah, the control of the thing or the idea.
What does Trump convey when he is physically imposing, almost like you can see from the side, he's almost leaning forward?
Yeah, territorial aggression. So he is not fearful of going into the space. He has no fear of the conflict.
What does he convey when his hands go up and sort of out?
Oh yeah, the windscreen wipers.
He does that a lot.
Yeah,
windscreen wipers, is that what you
sometimes
call it?
does it with one hand, some does the windscreen wipers with 2. Negation.
What do the windscreen wipers
Like,
convey?
that's not a thing. That's not a thing. We're
That's
not
not
even
a thing.
going.
I'm saying it, but it's not a thing.
Well, we've dealt with that, and what we're doing now is, and then he'll hold the new idea.
Which of the 2 candidates do you think is better able to control their own body language, meaning to suppress involuntary responses to stimuli or statements that are intended to rile them up?
Well, here's the thing. They've been practicing, or certainly one of them has been practicing, based on somebody else being the opposition. And so now we've got to go, okay, the environment has changed. Are you now practicing for the new environment? Are you countermeasuring for the new environment? We already know from some reports within the Trump camp that there is some instability, some unsettlement about this new environment of Harris. Because, of course, the expectation was not that.
For an upcoming debate between Harris and Trump, how would you counsel her to change her body language, knowing her baseline?
I would say, hey, you can use this big idea, visionary piece now and again, but you got to, which is hand up to up into what I would call the thought or the ecstatic, if it's above the head, but thought, which is why it seems to be an idea.
As if reaching into the thought bubble.
Yeah, reaching into a thought bubble, like now and again, but not too much. Bring it down, bring it symmetrical, really ground those ideas in this is earthly stuff, it's common sense, it's what it should be. Yeah, so you can be even more grounded than the person next to you, who takes up, who naturally, is a bigger guy, takes up a lot of space. Yeah, is heavier. Yeah, the limbs are heavier, so don't let those limbs. She shouldn't let her limbs float too much. They're not going to be heavy.
Don't challenge it by trying to appear bigger than you are. Instead, try to say the issue at hand is in front of me and it's controllable.
Yeah, and you can grab it and you can hold it and you can control it.
How would you counsel Harris regarding her tone of voice?
Well, the body, if she uses that body language, the tone of voice will have more gravity in it. It'll
Lower?
be heavier. It will lower. Now, a male has an advantage over a female vocally as a generalization, simply because as a good generalization, and I will win this bet, on a large population every time, the male as a good generalization has had more testosterone than the female. Therefore, the bones have got, not in every case, not in single cases, but give me 500 males and 500 females, and I'm winning that bet every time as an aggregate. Okay, so which means the bone growth in the male has been more. They've got wider shoulders, bigger chest cavity. The vocal cords are bigger and have become more flaccid. They're creating lower tones, and they're creating a subsonic resonance as well from their back. So it means they sound bigger. They sound like they're taking up more territory. And we're going to have an unconscious bias towards that. Now,
But do you think that will happen with this upcoming election debate, or do you think that the old trope about certain voters being uncomfortable with women who speak confidently will work against Harris?
yeah, okay, so the only voters that anybody would be worried about, anybody in either campaign, is the voters who don't know, who really don't know, who are the real swing vote. Okay, if you're a voter and you go, well, I don't like Harris, I don't like how she sounds. The simple thing I do is go, how have you always voted? And if they go, well, I've always voted for the red team. Okay, it's like, okay, has anything different happened in your life within the last, let's say, 2 years? Like, have you had children? Have you retired? Have you become ill recently? Have you lost your job? Like, is there any major significant change happened for you? And if they go no, I literally go, I don't care about you. You don't matter. I could put a slab of butter as the potential president for the red team, and you'd still vote for it. You're always going to vote that way until a concern happens. You're having no bearing on the election.
So for the purposes of the swing voter, you don't think any change in her tone of voice will make a difference?
Oh yeah, it will. Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the more subsonic resonance she gets, for those people who are the swing vote watching on their TVs, who have cinema sound and have a subwoofer somewhere in there, they're going to pick up that subsonic
They'll want more barrel in her
So
voice?
their brain is going, life has changed for me recently. I don't know whether it's red team or blue team anymore. I just don't know. I'm serious. Now, they might say to people, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this. But when they get in the booth, there is like all bets are off. And at that point, we know they go, which one? I just don't know. And now they're going on instinct. And they've got a cache of data in the back of their mind that is going to instinctually tell them which human is less risk than the other. They're going to discount one of them. Okay?
And the lower the average register of her voice, the deeper and more stable her voice, the more it will have comforted them into believing they can
Yes.
make a bet on her.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
And with regards to the physicality, the more contained she can make an argument and the more controllable she can convey that an issue is, the more they'll believe that they can rely on her.
The more controlled the voice will be, therefore the more subsonic, the more lower resonance is going to be there, because she's up against somebody who naturally has more lower resonance, and the instinct is looking. One of the things that it's looking for is who do we believe would control the environment better for me? Like the little one or the big one? Yeah. And one of the ways it works out is that a big person or a little person is what's the noise that it's making.
What we just established is I'll never win an election. That's not a surprise.
No, you can't. You absolutely can if you.
I'm 5'2". I don't think I can, and I've never.
No,
prosecuted.
you can produce. Here's what you do. You trigger the other one. You trigger the other one into higher resonance. Okay. And then you go to low resonance when they're triggered to high. You need to understand their trigger. You're going to give them the signals to copy, to go for their higher resonance. okay? And then you're going to drop to low. And you're going to expand your chest cavity. Yeah, you're going to take up more space, okay? You're even going to make sure that you're positioned in front of something flat to bounce that subsonic resonance off as well. There's all kinds of stuff we can do. We can position the mic to give you more subsonic resonance. Okay?
And it makes me think about Trump's famous debate against Hillary years ago,
Yeah.
where the idea was that he was sort of a stalking horse and he was physically behind her. Do you think by following Hillary around the stage, do you think that was intentional or instinctive on his part?
Oh, I think it's instinctive on his part, and both of them have been set up with an incredibly bad staging for both of them, essentially, which is this club singer, this club singer trope.
Yeah.
The moment you put an SM58, which is the kind of the type of mic they were using, is as much like a radio SM58, the Shure SM58 as is possible. That is an icon of stand-up comedian, pop singer, club singer. Okay? And so you've disabled one of the hands. Okay? So you've closed up the body. Yeah, which for the female now that's a massive disadvantage. Okay? If it were my candidate, I would have said there's no way, and I was working for Clinton, I would have said she has a different mic or she doesn't go on.
Lapel mic.
Yeah.
So that she can control her hands and control her physicality.
Yeah, or I'm like, you'll follow her with a boom. She doesn't go on unless she doesn't go on with that. She's not doing it.
So let's talk about the swing voters for Trump. Let's say Trump is on stage with Kamala. We've already talked about your recommendations for Kamala. What would you recommend for Trump this time around?
We already started doing it with Biden, which is not interrupting. Okay, so space. The space that you take up is a nonverbal indicator. So if I start taking up your talking space, if I talk over you, because sound is part of nonverbal as well, not what you say, but that I stopped you saying it says something about you and something about me. Okay? Dominance. So that swing vote is not necessarily, they won't like Trump being too dominant. It's about dominant enough to help me get what I want, but not stop me getting what I want. Okay? So the younger voters, which could be swing, are not going to be looking for a super dominant old male.
Because he's already anchored that way anyway, right?
Right.
So it's
We
not
don't need it to be more like that. We already know he's dad. Okay, so we don't need him more dad and going into, you don't let me speak. You don't think I'm worth listening to. A female. So we got a female average. So some of that swing will be living their experience of Trump and his presidency through how he treats this female. So if we got a female, young, swing voter, oh, you interrupt me. You don't let me speak. Yeah? So were I counseling him, I would go, she's your daughter. Respect her like your daughter. Treat her like your daughter. Make her do the non-verbals of that in the debate so that, this is if I'm right about the swing, and I have to know I'm right. I'm not working on this campaign. If I was working on this campaign, I'd be going, I want the data on this. I want who the swing vote is. And this debate is for them. I don't care about anybody else. Yeah, if a red voter, I've had it with campaigns that I've worked on. I've had the party faithful come up to me and go, we hate what you've done with the leader. It's like, I don't care.
You're like, do you want him to win?
Matter. You don't matter. You're going to vote for that person regardless. I could put nothing there and it's a great nothing. It's the perfect
I love it.
Nothing.
A slab of butter.
I love it. We really, yeah. It's the great nothing. It's the way we should be going.
Vote for a slab of butter.
Having a lot of nothing.
Let's talk about another Trump body language and body related moment, which is a recent shooting.
Yeah.
So he's grazed by a bullet at the rally scene around the world. Afterwards, he lunges up so fast to show his fist. Whatever you think about the fact that the Secret Service even allowed his head to
Right.
be, I
Right.
mean, that was noteworthy. What was interesting to you as a body language expert about Trump's body language around that event?
So look, here's what that situation says to me. He's uncontrollable. You can't. He's going to do whatever he's going to do. Yeah, like you would. So what they're meant to do, from my understanding, is bend him over. Yeah, and he should be bent over, and my understanding would be moving. Now there may be an issue with is the vehicle in the right place? Is it close enough? I mean, there's a litany here of problems with project management and execution
And getting him
on
to a
this.
safe place.
Yeah,
For sure,
yeah,
for sure.
keeping him safe in the first place, and everything onwards. The project management and the execution on this is as the head of the Secret Service said, a failure. Okay, so that given, another of the failures is, it would seem from my point of view, is they can't double him over. They can't control him to double him over. They can't control his hand going up in the air. And we've got somebody who has the brand of being a winner, not a loser. And so at this point, do you think his focus is on showing the brand of the winner? Of course it is. And he's naturally going to do that in any way. So at least we could go, man, the guy stayed on brand, like near death, and the guy stayed on brand, uncontrollable and being the winner.
Which shows you it's just who he is. It is the
Just
fighter
who
of
he
him.
is.
It's not actually
It's
brand,
potentially
which
just
could be
who he is.
scary, could be comforting, depending on what you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
In the context of any election that you worked on, and I know you're going to be an advisor to various entities, without naming names, what recommendation has been ignored to the most detriment?
I haven't got a good answer for you
Oh,
because
wow. So we'll
they
listen.
do what I say.
That's
It's so
wonderful.
it's so when you show them the effect, it's so clear that they just go, oh yeah, I'm just going to do that all the time then. And you go, yeah, you are.
Okay.
Yeah, and therefore you'll never get photographed as anything different. They will never be able to capture any footage or any photograph if they want to show you as something else than than what we're trying to show you. They'll have to go for old footage.
There's some sort of conventional wisdom, I must have heard in business school, that says you have to see an ad for a Coke something like 7 times
Right.
before all of a sudden you start salivating.
Yeah.
How many repetitions does it take for our changed body language to be absorbed by the audience?
If the body language very clearly and instantly conveys the message that the target really wants and needs, really wants, they'll accept it immediately, because it's like that's what I was looking for.
They've
There
been
it
waiting
is.
for it.
It's so, because it cuts to the unconscious mind, not the conscious mind can't stop it. Yeah, you can even tell the conscious mind what you're about to do. It feels so good to the unconscious mind that it overrides the conscious mind, and it starts feeding it, the reverse engineering of why it's a good thing.
So we live in our reptilian brains.
Well, we function under stress and pressure. That's where we most function. And the swing voter is under stress and pressure right now. Life has just changed for them, and they need things to be different. And who's going to help them with that difference? They're looking for
At this moment, as we're recording this, both camps are making the bet that there's enough swing voters that are going to go their way.
Yeah, well, they have to. So they have to. Now, the swing vote in the states that I would understand make the difference. It's not quite what the popular vote is. So the difference between the two candidates is a little more exacerbated in the swing vote states. But things can change. Things can It's a day's a long time.
Things can always change. I was going to ask you, what advice would you give me to try to get me into office? I don't think it's worth either of our time. I was going to ask you what advice you would give me so that I can find the love of the rest of my life. I don't know if we have enough time on this podcast. I was going to ask you, what advice would you give me so that my body language would take this podcast to number one? I'm not sure anybody can actually articulate that, but instead I will shift the focus to you and say, so I think when you start studying body language, you probably start studying the external, and then you see the effect of your own body language. And even when you go up on stage, you show physically the difference in the way that you speak and the tone and the smile and everything, so you're very aware of it. What, if anything, surprises or frustrates you about the way people receive your body language?
The way people receive my body language.
Because it's work, right? It's still work to think about how you come across.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I'm working, I'm absolutely cognizant all the time of everything that I'm doing, in order to have an effect on the audience, so they're more likely to take in the information that I'm giving them, and they're more likely to do what I'm saying they should be doing. And the reason is I want things to be better for them. And if they do what I say, things will be better for them. And if they don't, they won't. Things will improve if they do what I say. So I'm...
Is this a parenting podcast? Because things will improve if they do what I say.
Yeah.
And what I figured out is with my son, it works better if my tone is like this. And with my daughter, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
She's just not going to do it.
Right. But
Sorry,
listen,
but go on.
I get, sometimes I get an hour with, 3,000 people.
Yeah.
You've got, a lifetime with your kids.
Yeah.
You're in a long, complex game. I'm in a short, complicated game with my audience. And
So what's the challenge for you?
What's the challenge is that it's a short, complicated game. And so getting the result that you need and that you're paid to get, which is their results improve. After an hour with you, they go, damn, I'm just gonna do that. Like, that would make things better. And many of them do. And the organization sees a real uptick in all the things that they've asked for and basically paid you to deliver with an hour with a lot of people. So there's people with a lot of different brains there. Some people are just having a bad day that day. Some people are in a fantastic mood. Some people are going to have left the organization tomorrow. It's like 3,000 people. Some will die tomorrow. It's like somebody's going to have a child.
That is really of the essence here.
Somebody's going to have a child the next day. It's like somebody's just sitting there thinking about lunch. And there's no way you can get their mind off it. But the majority of the people in an hour, you're looking to move from, who the hell is this guy? And what has it got to do with me? And why am I here in the first place? And what am I going to tell my family as to why I went to, the company took me to Las Vegas for 3 days? Like, what am I going to say? How am I going to square this?
The goal is always to win them over.
Well, so the goal for me is, first of all, improve their mood. Okay, improve their mood, and let them know that you understand the problem that they have. Help them with that problem, like really help them with something that is simple and they can do immediately, which they can see, damn, that would help it exponentially. Like, that is low cost for me to do, easy for me to do. I can just do it all the time, and I've already experienced. It doesn't help things 1%. It's like multiples of 100% improving stuff for me. And the majority go, I'm going to try and do that all the time. Yeah. Now, some of them will succeed at that and some will fail. Okay. Because I can't be with them all the time. Yeah, personal client, I can. Like, I can go, you're going to email me. You're going to call me up and you're going to tell me that you did this, okay? And what do you want me to do if you haven't? Because I'll know if you're lying to me. Okay, what do you want me to do if you say, yeah, I did it, Mark, and I say, no, you didn't?
No, you didn't.
What do you want the punishment to be? You're going to decide the punishment on this.
Right.
You're going to give me the consequence of this.
Love
Now,
it.
and I'm in a longer relationship
Right.
with them.
We got insight into a coaching relationship with you.
Right.
So if you were my coach, what would you tell me I'm doing wrong?
Oh well, I wouldn't tell you doing anything wrong. What I first off start asking you is like, what do you want? It's very possible because here's what I see. Like I see somebody, really well together, great, calm, assertive, relaxed to be around, and you're even saying, hey, I try and make it relaxed for people.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can do that. You've made it very relaxed for me, and I'm sure you can do that. So I instantly go, so what's the real problem? And if it's a problem with stuff that we can't control, like that's like, there's nothing we can do about guys. We're not going to change
Right.
guys.
Nothing anybody can do about that.
No, absolutely. But is there something, if it's true that you're saying, look, the biggest barrier to this working is this lifestyle compatibility, and actually I do have some leeway.
I mean, I'd have to. I'd have to.
You'd have to.
I just wanted to ask you this only because you're an expert on body language. And I think it's always important to keep learning. I worked for 20 something years in private equity and real estate. And I think the most important thing anyone can learn to be successful in corporate America is to understand how you are perceived by the people around you. And nobody knows how they're perceived. And then how you're being perceived by two people at the table is different than the other three people. And also somebody just walked by who hates the look of your face. Whatever, the tone of your, whatever, right? So thinking about how you're perceived and how body language could affect that is something I wanted specifically to ask you at the end of this conversation when you and I had interacted for a while.
And you look and you sound great.
Normal.
You're not under stress right now. And here's the thing.
But I'm not under stress on a date either.
Okay. No. So here's what I'd say is that if you went on that date going, you know what, I'm going to lower the expectation of lifestyle compatibility on this, then you'd probably start to see yourself under a little more stress because now you're pushing a boundary. And if you started to then I might start to see some body language from you where I'd go, okay, now I'm seeing a shift from your baseline on this. Because in this situation here, like we're not on a date right now, and you're not lowering your expectations of lifestyle compatibility. So you're not.
I have high expectations of your intellect and your affability. That was all I came into this with.
Right. And probably because I'm pretty good at this, I'm matching those expectations. In fact, what I'm probably doing is delighting you. I'm giving you even more than you expected around that.
Because I know you'll be intellectual and I know you'll be affable. Because if you're doing public speaking and you're an expert on something, those two things are true. Whether you're also charming and delightful in like anecdotes and being funny and all that kind of stuff, that's what makes it entertaining.
Right. So look, but had you come with different expectations, I would have been able to fill those expectations as well, because I'm looking out all the time for what are your expectations, because my assumption is that you know your audience and your audience are like you because they like you, because that's why they listen, because they like you, and therefore I'm going to try and mirror in some way those expectations so they like me as well, because I start to behave like them. So there's a whole bunch of mirroring and liking going on at the moment, okay? which I could change had you got other expectations. So back to your performance and body language is that I would only be interested in giving you feedback if I could view the actual situation and go, well, here's what's actually happening.
We're going to get a hidden camera. We're going to put it at a bar and we're going to send that to you, and that's the next episode.